Here we're going to be working with this graph, if you will, and we're going to correctly analyze it according to the primary points upon which it's somewhat constructed in this segment of Sound City. I'm your host, Soldier Shoes, and we're going to exercise critical thinking. Just kind of to recap what we've discussed over time, we're going to go into series one where, according to this segment so far, let's say we're going to deal with sense of sight because you might not be able to see me on this particular segment. And I know that's probably so at the current moment, which will bring us into the next area we're going to work with, which is feel. F-I-L-L, feel. All right. Now, the next thing we want to look at, we have 4 different categories, and then we have 3 areas that we want to coordinate plots in on this scale or this animated visual here. Series 3, I think it's sufficient to say we have something to do with a fact. That being said, thank everyone for coming to this presentation, to this segment, and thank those that support these posts, as well as those that have in mind something particular to raise in a discussion that you can send to me at 850-491-9279 or 850-755-8187, or you can text me at either of those numbers. Email me at williamsvictor237@gmail.com, and we'll say the first category we're going to work with animation. That's something I get to look at all the time voluntarily as a music producer and a published poet. Some may say author as well. That's possible because, in my opinion, along with those that as well vote so or feel so, I'm going to say we work with a nutrition, because without nutrition, I'd simply just have my own health on my hands to work with. So thank the Lord for the splendid as well as awesome world that we people have to live in as humans. Category 3, person. Something we could stand. But we sure don't have to stand much else if we can stand that, in my opinion. And category 4 is substance. We want to make sure, in my opinion, to have a logical matter or something that has both question and answer in order to plot coordinates that are going to make sense from an overview. Say we don't really want to have to use critical thinking uh, as a tool. We want to understand that critical thinking is instrumental. It comes from us like adrenaline does, and it serves the same kind of a purpose, in my opinion. From 1 to 4, we left the first space blank because this is about being able to produce a map or a graph to provide an image or a reflection. So instead of really working from the ground up on this chart, I'm going to instead show you what happens working from the centralized area to the outer area. That's from the inner to the outer, or the core to the crust. I'll expect to see you in the mantle. We've got our categories: animation, nutrition, person, substance. And we know our sections: site, feel, and fact. We can see we're going to begin with animation and site. That starts at a 1. We see it's a 0, but where we are in this from the inner to the outer is at the 0. So we're going to say a 1, and a 0 to a 1 is different, and that's going to work because here is not just to teach anything, it's to learn something. So it's going to start as sure as it begins at a 1, it's going to start, as sure as it begins at a 0 as well, it's going to at a 1, which we'll see. As sure as it does begin and start at a 1, it's going to coincide with the person and a fact. The reason it's going to coincide with a person and a fact is because here with animation and where it's going to feel, a person has just left there, and there is a substance there. The animation and the fact don't have to have anything in common, but since the fact is in the outer area of encompassing the animation region, which is here, the fact just might. But either way, it's okay where it is because it's not doing one thing or another as a fact stands like a fact is. Animation crosses with 2 and 3 where there is sight and nutrition, as well as there is substance and a person here at 2. Animation can go into a 3 with the sense of sight based on fact. Once animation does that, the person and sight goes to a 2. That's been cited, and there's a fact there. Nutrition works with a feel at a 2, just about, give or take a few, but closer to 2, rounding it off to a 2, because we're only dealing with from 1 to 5. Those other points are there, and those other measures, we're going to work within those, I expect, as this is about working with someone else. It'll be a critical thinking skills discussion. The person and the feel at 3 here moves substance and nutrition from a 1, where there is a fact, to a 2. Some may argue about nutrition and the fact, but I say it's it's okay to have faith and believe. We don't really know outside of just growing fruits and vegetables, peanuts, things like that, where that comes from. It's been around all our lives. The animation moves from 3 based on a feel to a fact. We'll find animation, which is the green color here. Animation is the green color, going to a 4 with the feel based on the fact. Now, in the blue, we'll deal with the nutrition because it's just off there. Animation's here green, nutrition's here blue. The person is here in yellow, and substance is in red. Sight is as well in each of those. Feel is in each of those, and fact is in each of those. Now, as sure as nutrition and feel went to a 2 from a 1, a person and sight, which was at 4, went to a 2. And the nutrition dropped then to a 5 with nutrition and fact. That means that a person is at 3, which is the highest number right now out of all plots coordinated. And that's a fact. So here at fact and nutrition, we'll have a 3. We also, with that 3, can see that there's a slight decrease between nutrition, a feel, animation, and sight. The person is at the core of that. Maybe one reason we could say why that's so, and maybe one reason is enough. You decide and let me know. The sight of the animation that is in the green, crossing just above the fact of the yellow region, is cool of a color like blue is, closer to green than it is to red. That means nutrition would change according to the feel and a fact. And there is the feel area. It'll change to a 2, and the person that was here at the core of this event here will, based on animation, move on a feel to a fact. The substance is at a 2, and according to nutrition, it's at a 4. Animation would like to say that, but you can see it's here, and you see that decrease there, and then it comes back up from what was an obtuse as it was decreasing angle to what is still obtuse, but heading towards, as it moves vertically, an acute angle, which it would eventually reach if it kept going, or if we continued to analyze. Nutrition changes. The person is affected here by the sight as well as the feel, but it's coming through nutrition. That means that the person is going to have to settle for animation, and that's going to have to be time compensated or recompensated by the feel itself, which can supported by the fact, which is here. It's here on the outer edges of it. So the person is going to a 3 based on a fact. That means the feel has to be in favor of the person. It goes to a fact. It's based on a feel, and that's going to be at a 2. Nutrition, the blue, supports the person based on sight. That means the person is going to be working at a 2 where it comes to sight. And animation will still be a large region. Also, nutrition, it will have a consistent pattern of nutrition and the fact, as well as a little more of sight, the yellow. But as we see, we're getting ready to pan this around. That yellow is up to a 5. Animation is at a 3. Nutrition is at a 2, being worked with by animation, a little bit of feel, a little bit of fact, and even some sight. In this area here is a little darker there, the blue, a little darker, some sight as we wind this down or up. And that means that the person can be found from a 2 at a 3. The fact's going to kick in here. Not as much, and not less than this color code is the black and white space around it. Vice versa, it's within too. So the feel has room to be nutrition through the sight of the person. That's going to make substance that's really strong in here fit at a 3. As a feel. The nutrition, it's shifted, but it's not shifted much. Animation has taken the larger range of motion. The fact is about the same, but as nutrition starts to influence that, we can stand to continue to watch or observe what happens with the fact as we go along proceeding. The feel is the most complex looking areas between the feel and the sight as we move to the fact, and not the animation or opinion. And the person will rely on substance more than nutrition, as we can see. The nutrition is kind of left out back towards where the animation is. There's nutrition there, but the fact here is supporting it, the nutrition. And we move based on the feel to the nutrition of the person. And animation is going to support this because it's the largest region for one. And number 2, that's the only thing that can serve a feel, singular. No matter how many feels or how many images a person has in mind, it's still for the purpose of applying a feel or processing a feel, whether that be a sufficient condition or a necessary condition, based on internal locus of control, based on low order thinking of Bloom's taxonomy, based on resilience, based on intrinsic motivation, and based on grit as well. This has something to do with the SQ4R system created by Francis P. Robinson in 1941, God bless, who did. As we just are really seeing how to reflect something, that's not supposed to take a large amount of time. So here we'd be looking at the site based on substance, and we'd be dealing with the site here in the 3 area because the fact is supporting the person, and so says that the animation. The person will move according to substance, based on substance, frankly, to the 3 spot. Now, in this 3 spot towards animation, we will have to work with the sight of the person because we've not the sense of hearing, the sense of taste, the sense of smell, the sense of touch, or the sense of taste to work with. Here we'd also have the nutrition of the person, and this that is the feel of the person, influenced by animation. The fact is supporting all 3 right here because nutrition is the largest region here, and a person's not willing to compromise nutrition. A person, because of interpersonal intelligence, would rather sacrifice health rather than sacrifice nutrition. If he or she's not suicidal or has already committed suicide. So even up until the point of discussion, we're still working with the fact. Nothing's being disturbed, and the substance is here. The substance is trying to work with the sight. The fact, it came down into that area, but it was picked up by nutrition. So the animation came through, sure as it's the largest region right now, followed by nutrition, but not necessarily the most important or the strongest, as this is all coordinated and plotted into one reflection. In this area where there's room for the person, that's going to be based on a fact. So the person and the fact we find here, which we can't find without nutrition, we can't find without animation, is going to be found under a fact at the 2. Just as we found a person the last time. And just as all of those complex images cleared out. So we know we found what we're looking for. Neither of what we need, or either of what we need, is an animation, nutrition, person, or substance based on sight, feel, and fact. And we're going to talk about it this here, right now, with what's going to be called favor. And I'm not really one to say, tomorrow's weather or today's horoscope or anything that has to do with implying something that I would like to make sure is made clear for the purpose of practicing good personal health. If you ever want to talk about putting together or taking apart, and that's all you have in mind, I think that's awesome. This is from Microsoft Windows. It's included in the Office package, and I do this once again as a music producer. I got interested in this reading waves, working in the studio on music production, and it occurred to me that you know rather be challenged by seismology or what have you, radiation, or any other kind of registration of wave. I come out better just understanding the dominant leverage itself between fact, value, and policy based on fact or opinion.